Hello everyone. So today we're gonna explore a little bit of a chant, a very classic Indian mantra. This mantra is part of the Dasha Shanti, which are 10, is a collection of 10 mantras on peace. So these mantras, they are part of the Vedas, they are Vedic mantras. The Vedas are this body of knowledge, this very, very ancient knowledge is one, if it's not the most ancient written records that we have in history, and it's a very interesting subject which should belong to another talk. But traditionally this knowledge in these ancient cultures like the Indian culture, they used to be passed on through sound. So they used to be recorded by memory because they didn't have the possibility of writing everything. This technology was not there, so everything was passed on by memory. So they did all this collection of chants, and then the knowledge could move on from generation to generation. Because if you have to, for example, memorize 2,000 pages of a normal book, most probably you cannot. But if it's all recorded in a way that you can sing, then actually you can manage to, even up to 2,000 pages, you can actually memorize, of course, over a long period of time. And up to this day in India, you can still find some people that can have this capacity of memorizing different portions of the Vedas, like huge portions. They know by memory, they know by heart, just because they managed to keep chanting it. So it's a very interesting tradition. And then inside this collection, this body of knowledge, there are some specific passages which are relevant for everyone. Let's say they are universal. They're very relevant also for yoga. They deal sometimes with meditation, they deal with health, they deal with peace, they deal with the nature of the mind, the nature of this world. So they are relevant for anyone that is interested in meditation or this type of knowledge. So this collection of 10 mantras on peace, these 10 Shanti mantras, I would like for us to today explore one of these. It's a very, very traditional one. It's sung in many places in India, and maybe you also have heard in the West. It became quite famous in the West, which is the Asato. That's how normally it's known as the Asato because are the first words of this chant. So I will just read the chant first, and then later I'm gonna teach how to chant, and we can chant together. Okay, so the mantra is Om. In general, all the Vedic mantras, they always start with Om. That is the pranava. Again, Om will be a topic for another conversation. So Om is the most important sound. Let's say it's the sound that encompasses all other sounds. So all other mantras, they are inside the Om. Yeah? And so the Vedic mantras, they always start with this Om. It's the beginning of something auspicious, the beginning of something that you should have some attention, you should have some concentration on. And so the mantra reads as Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Om Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya, Om Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. And then now this collection of peace mantras, they always end with Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. So it's easy to recognize the Shanti mantras because they finish with this passage where Shanti, the meaning of Shanti is peace. So it's asking for peace. Now let's try to explore this mantra a little bit before, because I believe, and some of my teachers also believe the same, that it is important to know the meaning of what you're chanting. Some people don't mind too much about this, but I personally, when I'm doing a chant, if I'm using for meditation purposes, which I believe it's the best usage for us, this type of mantras, it's important that you know the meaning, so that it's not just chanting something random, let's say, and expecting for the sound only to create the effect, but also as your mind reflects on that specific significance, then you can create more of the desired result. So in this sense, chanting a mantra, knowing the meaning, it's like a bhavana, it's like a cultivation of a specific sensation, it's a cultivation of a specific feeling. So you're trying, cultivation as the word means, you're trying to grow something, like you're planting a seed, and then as you keep repeating and you keep watering and you keep giving food to that seed, that seed will eventually sprout and becomes a small plant and then becomes a tree. So meditation is, you can also see the progression of meditation starts with bhavana, this cultivation. The more you do it, the more it grows and the easier it is for that tree to hold there, let's say. So the more you do it, the tree will be grow, the tree will be strong, and the tree will be there. Of course, I'm talking about the mind, so that means any quality of the mind, any specific line, way of living that you want to develop, that you want to be, that you want to acquire, you can see on these terms of cultivating as if it's a plant. And a small plant is very easy to destroy. Any small rain can kill it, but a big tree is quite hard to destroy. So the more you cultivate specific sensations in your mind, specific thoughts or specific chants, then they will grow to become very large, strong trees, and it will be very difficult to uproot from your mind. Now, back to the chant. I'll put the chant on the description of the video, so don't worry if you get confused with the sound. You can read on the description of the video. I'll put more details there, and I'll put the chant so in a way that it will be easier for you to follow. Now, this mantra, this passage is divided into 3 parts. 4 if you consider the Om Shanti Shanti, but because the Om Shanti Shanti is common to all of the others, I'll speak about the 3 first. So the first one you read Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Now this mantra has a structure, which is basically, it's asking for something and rejecting something else. Right? So it's a positive in one side and it's negative on the other side. The words that are important on this first sentence is, actually is the word that is important, is Sat. And so here you have Asato, so this first word will be Asat. And then on the Sadgamaya, the important word will be Sat. So you have Sat and you have Asat. Now, the meaning of Sat is truth, and the meaning of Asat is untrue or not true or false, something that it doesn't correspond to reality. On this first line, what she's saying is what you are outpouring, let's say, what you are expecting is to have truth, to know what's true, to feel what's true, and not to feel what's untrue, what's false, not to get it. So you want something which is true and you don't want something else which is false or it's not true. Because we are talking about the meaning of the chant, it's important for us to know what is true, at least on the view of the yoga tradition. One important distinction of the yoga tradition, the yoga philosophy, and also many other Indian or Eastern traditions of philosophy, of even of spirituality, in comparison to the Western counterparts, is that in yoga philosophy, the mind is also a product of matter. So in general, in the West, we divide the world or life between matter, so like objects, like the chair that you are sitting, or the bed in which you are sitting, or the floor that you are sitting. So these are objects, physical material, like the body, it's a physical material that you can touch. And then there's another realm, the realm of the mind, which is a invisible realm, let's say, which is the realm of ideas, the realm of memory, imagination, knowledge, intellect, etc. So normally we divide, there's this duality between both interacting to create life. Now in the yoga tradition, there's one extra element, which is called Purusha, or in other words, some people, depends on the tradition, will call Atma. Because for the yoga tradition, both mind and physical objects, they actually part of nature only. They are matter. Okay, so they are not self-sustainable, which means they are not in itself alive. What brings life to them, what infuses life into matter, is consciousness, which is Purusha. Some people translate Purusha as soul, but I believe it becomes a little bit complicated, because especially if you come from maybe Catholic countries or specific religions, sometimes the word soul already has a lot of weight and already has a lot of connotations. So sometimes maybe using the word soul can be complicated, but also using the word consciousness can be complicated, because to define consciousness can be quite tricky. But for this level of understanding that we are having now, the best would be to see that for the yoga tradition, thoughts and emotions, they are also objects, which mean they are due to end or they are on an ultimate view, which means on time testing, they are bound to disappear, they are bound to dissolve. No? So just as, for example, if I hold a piece of paper, for example, so now I can hold it and it's very clear that I'm holding it and I can feel the texture, etc. But for sure in maybe 100, 200 years, I don't know how much time it takes for this to dissolve, but for sure this will dissolve. I am pretty sure about that. Eventually this paper will not be here anymore, it will become something else. No? So the molecules that are forming this paper now will dissolve and become something else. Now thoughts and emotions, memory, imagination, etc., all the contents of the mind, they form the same view, in the same category. They are products of nature and they are bound to dissolve. Okay, so they are due to change. Because they are bound to dissolve, they are bound to disappear, they are not ultimately true. Okay, so this is the distinction then between Purusha or consciousness and matter, Prakriti, which is this realm of objects, of thoughts, of emotions. This realm is due to dissolve, to change, to disappear. The other realm of Purusha, of consciousness, is always there. So, on this sense, for the yoga tradition, consciousness, it always remains there. Okay, it's the only thing that is always true. And then nature and all the changes in nature, so all the different animals and all the different capacities of the brain and all the different stages of evolution, etc., they are all a process of nature which, when combined with consciousness, allow our existence to happen. Okay? This might be a little bit philosophical, of course, and it is, in fact, but for our understanding of this mantra, one easy way to see it is when you're saying, give me truth and avoid what's untrue, what's false. What we're trying to ask here, what we're trying to feel is not to be bound, not to be trapped, not to be imprisoned in things that are ultimately bound to dissolve. So for example, not to get attached too much to physical things, not to get attached too much to objects, not to get too trapped in relationships, which are of course sometimes not beneficial to us, so not to get too trapped too in a way that you start to feel that that is the truth, that is eternal, you know, as if that suffering or that situation or that object is in itself eternal. Okay, and also even on the realm of personality, so not to consider that any thought that you have, any emotion that you have is bound to be eternal. It cannot. It's bound to actually change and to disappear and become something else. Okay? The easiest way then, as a definition for this first bit of the chant, would be not to get bound, not to get trapped, not to get encircled by things that are due to disappear. This means the body. So when I look to myself in the mirror and I see myself the way my body is now, the way my skin is right now, the way my muscles are right now, the way my face is, the way my hair is, my teeth is, my nails are, etc., I know that they are bound to change. So I know the truth. And when I think and I reflect about my own mind, so the thoughts that I'm experiencing or that I have experienced in the past, or the dreams or imaginations that I can have about the future, they're also due to change. So the personality also is due to change. Okay? So this is the main message. The idea is by understanding this more and by cultivating, by the bhavana, by making this tree, this knowledge grows. So by repetition of this chant and reflection over this chant, the idea is for this knowledge to be very well rooted in you, so that whatever happens, it's easier for you to drop it. It's easier for you to let it pass. Okay, everything shall pass. So then, including your own thoughts, emotions, etc. So you can also allow that to pass too. Okay, so this will be the sat and the asat, the truth and the non-truth. One way that we can see for this chant. Now the second one will be on tamaso ma jyotir gamaya. Now here we have two words to reflect on. The first one is tamas and the second one is jyotir. Jyotir, here you can see a sattva also. Okay, so what basically this line is saying is, give me light and release me from darkness, or remove me from darkness. Now, these tamas and jyoti, or tamas and sattva, is really related about the mind. Okay? In the tradition of yoga, in the tradition of philosophy in India, etc., Eastern traditions, light has always been correlated with knowledge. Light has always been correlated with calmness. Light has always been correlated with seeing the truth, the capacity of seeing the truth. Because if you enter a room and you want to know how the room looks like, you need light. If you're in the darkness, you end up falling and you cannot see what's happening. So darkness is always correlated with not being able, not being aware of what's there. And then light is exactly the opposite. You are ready to know what's going on. You're ready to know the truth. So there has always been this idea of cultivating light on the mind and releasing darkness from the mind. The idea is of meditation, for example, of yoga practice, is to increase sattva in the body, to increase jyoti, to increase light on the body and on the mind, so that with time it's easier for you to see these truths. The first step for developing this jyoti, this light, is to calm the mind, so to release too much of the distraction. If you want to know something, if you're distracted, it will be difficult for you to know. If you want to do a bhavana, if you want to grow something, if you want to develop something, without attention, without effort, it will not happen. So from the view of my teachers and my view, the first step is to develop this light and to remove darkness. We always to reduce agitation, to reduce distraction in the mind, okay, so that your mind is more single pointed, so that you have more focus. So this second portion is asking to release this lethargy, this lack of clarity on the mind, this lack of knowledge, this ignorance, and then trying to develop, or asking for your mind to be more developed in a way that everything gets more clear and it's easier to see the truth, which is actually what we spoke in the first sentence. Then the third one is mrityorma amritam gamaya. Now the two words here are mrit and amritam. Now even the mrit, you have another very classic chant from the Vedas, which is the Mahamrityunjaya, so which is the great chant for conquering death. So mrit will be related to death, and amritam, the normal translation will be nectar. Now, on this sense, nectar is the opposite of death. It's not that here you're asking, please, asking your mind, or asking nature, asking God, or depending on your view of the word, but it's not that you're saying, please make me immortal, because as far as I know, at least as I have seen, I never met anyone that is immortal. So everything is bound to change, as we spoke in the beginning. What you're asking here is to know what is ultimately going to die. So your body, your mind, and everything else that you can see around at this moment is bound to dissolve. Okay? So death is a ultimate truth for everything that has existence in matter. So, and remember, the matter in the sense we correlate also with thoughts, ideas, emotions, memory, imagination. So here you're saying not to get bound in these things that are due to die. And then you want the nectar. So this amritam, it's the nectar when you know the truth of Purusha, of consciousness. Then what they say is you feel the nectar, you taste the nectar of life. As nectar is sweet and is nourishing. So it releases all fear. Like for example, when you have something that is very delicious, like honey for example, that is like a nectar, is very sweet and nourishing. You feel good, you feel well, at least at that moment that you experience that sensation. So the nectar here is like the ultimate nectar, when you're not afraid anymore of dying. You're not afraid anymore of losing everything that is bound to change. So the arise of this experience of not being afraid anymore, even of losing your own self, of dissolving your personality or dissolving your mind and your body with the process of death, this creates this experience of this nectar, this ultimate nectar, which makes then everything sweet. So it's a very interesting paradox that knowing death allows you to actually experience life in a sweeter way, in a more valuable way. Okay? And then we finish the mantra with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti means peace. So this was a reflection in peace. So all these three aspects, the more these small trees grow in our minds, these understandings, the more they grow, the more, possibly more, the experience of peace can arise in us. Okay? So now what we can do is, I would chant slower in the beginning, bit by bit. So we do like 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, 4 words. You understand as we do. And then later we do the whole chant. Once you learn, then you can do by yourself. Traditionally, mantras, they can either be repeated loudly, or they can be repeated softly, like whispering, or they can be repeated mentally. Okay? Tradition also seems that this progression is from the lowest level to the highest level. So making it loud, it's the not the best way. Making like a whisper is the middle way. Making mental is the best way, the most recommended. Okay, so you can practice on these 3 ways and see what suits your system better at this moment. So let's start. So the first syllable is Om. So Om, Om, Asato, Om, Asato Ma, Om, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Om, Om, Tamaso, Om, Tamaso Ma, Om, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Om, Om, Mrityorma, Om, Mrityorma Amritam, Om, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So now we can do the whole chant 3 times together. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Om Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Om Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Om Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Om Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Om Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Om Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.